Hello and welcome to the Sports Perspective. I'm Hayden Grove.
And I'm Jordan Elwood. Hayden, the halftime show got mixed reviews. What did you think about Bruno Mars and the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I thought it was fantastic. I'm a big fan of old school music, so I like the fact that he could just stand there and sing. The Red Hot Chili Peppers were good too, but I think Bruno really stole the show.
Absolutely.
After the win against Wisconsin, the Buckeyes were back on the road to face the number 17 Iowa Hawkeyes in Iowa City on Tuesday night. Senior Aaron Craft picked up right where he left off against the Badgers, scoring 14 first-half points and 5 of 6 shooting. Despite his great effort, however, the Buckeyes trailed 33-31 at the half. Much like their matchup against Wisconsin, the Buckeyes pushed out to an early second-half lead, but this time were able to sustain it without as much struggle as the Buckeyes polished off their second consecutive Big Ten win on the road by a final score of 76-69.
The Ohio State men's basketball team was reeling following a loss to the Penn State Nittany Lions on their home court, but took on Wisconsin this past weekend looking to turn things around. Down 33-29 at halftime, the Buckeyes surged to a 40-37 lead before finding themselves down 7 with just 5 minutes left in the game. Senior guard Aaron Craft made some timely offense and defensive plays, scoring all 7 of his points in the final 4 minutes. That gave Ohio State a 2-point lead with under a minute left to play. Amir Williams hit a couple of free throws, but the Badgers battled back to give themselves an opportunity for a game-winning shot, down just 1 point with 15 seconds left. Again, however, the Ohio State defense stepped up to the challenge, forcing an errant three that missed the mark as the Buckeyes picked up what might have been their biggest win of the season thus far.
When we get back, we'll be reviewing men's hockey's weekend series against Penn State. Stick around. The Ohio State men's hockey team was in action this past weekend against the Penn State Nittany Lions. Buckeye TV sports reporter Grant Miller was there to give us the scoop on both games in the weekend series.
Matt Johnson was the other Buckeye scorer on the night with his 3rd goal of the season. The Buckeyes wrote a career-high 46 saves from freshman goalie Christian Frey, his 4th win in only 5 starts since joining the team in December.
Well, I mean, I give him all the credit in the world in the position that he was almost thrown into since he's gotten down here, you know, and from playing 2 games without even taking a class to getting school going, to get acclimated with a new town and all that. And again, I think a lot has to do with the guys in the room too. So, I mean, he's just gone out there every day. He's worked hard. He doesn't say much. Practices the same every day. And, you know, his play kind of speaks for itself lately. So he's done a fantastic job. I couldn't be happier for him.
The Buckeyes found themselves down 2-0 after the first period, but in the second, the team finally started to get in their groove. Goals from Tanner Fritz, Ryan Dzingel, and Anthony Greco completed the turnaround to give them a 3-2 lead, and that was all they would need on the evening. The great play of the junior forwards has been a big topic of late, and Ryan Dzingel thinks that it's just really come naturally.
I don't know. Just coach looks on us to, especially our power play, to get the job done, and we know that we're looked at to put points on the board. And I guess when things are going well, you have confidence. So we're just trying to keep that going.
Up next, we'll break down the Super Bowl with our panel and look forward to a little Olympics. Stay tuned. All right, it's time to talk some Super Bowl. We've invited Eric Sager, sports editor for The Lantern, as well as Antonio Venegas, the vice president of Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio, into the studio to help us understand what happened on Sunday night. Welcome, guys. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Happy to be here.
Yeah, same for me. Definitely happy to be here.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, first let's start off with the Broncos. I mean, the first play of the game was a safety. Did that change the tide at all? I mean, what happened on that play, and did it foretell the blowout?
I mean, I'm not really sure if it really foretold a blowout, but I think once that safety happened, it really shook up the Broncos mentally, then I think really the whole team was never really able to quite recover from that. And give credit to Seattle's defense. They saw that opportunity, were able to take control of the game early on, and by halftime it was pretty much a done deal as to who was gonna come out with the win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a tough play to get started off, but at the same time, I think no matter what they would have done or anything like that, I think Seattle's defense was going to be dominant no matter what, and Peyton couldn't really do anything. He didn't have enough time. So, I mean, it was a bad play, and it put a bad taste in everybody's mouth to start on the Broncos side of the ball, but I think either way, I think the Seahawks would have won.
Definitely. Obviously, Peyton Manning wasn't exactly his normal self in the game. Do you think his performance was more him playing poorly, or was it more Seattle's defense just dominating?
I think it was more just Seattle's defense dominating because, I mean, their front four and their defensive backs were just unbelievable. I mean, Denver prides themselves on having wide receivers that can get open and get in space, and there was nothing for Peyton to do. And with the way that he is, and with his age and just the type of quarterback he is, he just, if he doesn't get time, if he gets time, he's going to beat you. And he didn't have any time, and he wasn't able to get his reads, and that came the turnovers, and then they couldn't move the ball, and that was it.
Right. I definitely agree. I mean, if you want to take a look at also a couple of guys that I think really stood out, look at Cliff Averill, who was able to get a lot of pressure on Peyton Manning. Of course, Malcolm Smith, who was named the MVP. I thought he had a really solid game.
He did.
And I know everybody was talking about him before the game, for what happened in the NFC Championship game, but Richard Sherman, just watching that game, I think Manning may have thrown the ball his direction maybe once or twice at the very most. So really it was that whole Seahawks defense, like Eric said, I think was just so dominant the whole game that even though Manning still may have thrown for like 280 yards, most of that was because he had to throw that ball so many times because the Broncos couldn't do anything else on offense.
Exactly.
And sticking with the Seattle defense, obviously you guys, said that they were really dominant throughout the game. What makes them so dominant, like from game to game? I mean, how are they so far ahead of every other defense in the league?
Well, one of the things I thought that stood out was how well they tackled, in the open field. I thought, while Manning was able to complete passes to, guys like Demaryius Thomas, Wes Welker, you really never saw a single play in that game where those guys broke open for an extra 5-6 yards, where as pretty much as soon as they caught the ball, there was already two white jerseys around them, and I think they do that really well. And I think the other thing too is that just as a unit everybody's on the same page of what they have to do, and I think in the defense that's definitely something that that I think really shows like what kind of caliber that team has. And and I think the scary thing is, a lot of these guys are relatively young guys on that defense. So I have a feeling that we're still going to be talking about these guys for the next few years as legitimate title contenders.
Yeah, I agree with you. What you're saying, everyone has their own job and they stick with their responsibilities really well and take care of that, and then the rest of it takes care of themselves. And you mentioned a guy like Cliff Averill, who was stuck in Detroit for however many years, 4 or 5 years, and I think he was on the winless team. And felt like there were a lot of guys on there, and Cam Chancellor as well, who had a lot to prove to just the nation and the country. And then all week, all they heard was Peyton Manning's legacy, Peyton Manning this, Peyton Manning that, and they were probably pretty upset. So they came out and they did what they needed to do, and they did what they knew they could do, and they dominated.
While most people credit the defense for getting the win, the team put up 43 points. And do you think that the offense got enough credit for that?
I mean, their offense didn't make mistakes, just like they hadn't all year. And with the 43 points that you mentioned, I mean, I think it was 19 came on the defensive side of the ball with the safety, the pick six, and then I think, what was it? They had a kickoff return or something like that.
Percy Harvin kickoff return.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, Russell Wilson is, as he has when he was with Wisconsin and NC State, never really made mistakes, and then that helped him. And Marshawn Lynch was able to get enough yardage to keep Denver's defense honest too.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. At least with Seattle's offense, Russell Wilson, he threw for just over 200 yards, which on paper may not look all that impressive. Mm-hmm. But when you consider, he didn't throw any picks, didn't make any mistakes, and on top, and I think it was because of their defense, it really put Seattle's offense in a really good position to just move down the field and get a lot of get a lot of easy points. But and then also I think the other thing that was really big was that at least early on was that Seattle's offense kept Peyton Manning and the Broncos offense off the field. I think they ended up converting 3 or 4 third downs early in that game, and that really just kind of set the tone, I think, for for the rest of the way.
I agree.
Well, guys, we know the Super Bowl was a blowout, but my question to you is, if this game was played a week later, would the results still have been the same, or would things have been much closer?
I think Denver's offense, I think, I think they're just too talented, to have, to just have a setback like that. But I think that safety, like I mentioned earlier, I think just put Denver in, such a bad mental state that they really never could, recover from. Now, if something similar to happen based on what we saw on Sunday, I still think the Seahawks win, but I don't think we're sitting here talking about a 35-point blowout.
And Denver was coming off the win against the Patriots. Peyton Manning's old nemesis, Tom Brady. They were feeling good about themselves. They had momentum with their offense, and that's kind of like something that I don't agree with, is having a Super Bowl 2 weeks later than after the championship games. But it is what it is. It is how it is. So I don't really know if it would have been too much of a difference. I agree with Antonio. I think that the Seahawks still would have won. I think it would have been a little bit of a closer game. I wasn't expecting a 5-touchdown difference by any means, but Seattle just had everything going for them, and it worked out for them in the end.
Well, we want to thank you guys for coming in the studio and coming on the show. It was great to have both of you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
It's going to be a busy week at the Schott as men and women's basketball teams return to Columbus. The men's team will have 2 home games next week. The first will be on Saturday at 6 against Purdue Boilermakers, who are on a 4-game losing streak. Then on Tuesday, the Buckeyes will face off against their rivals in the 10th-ranked Michigan Wolverines at 9 o'clock. The women's basketball team also plays this weekend. You can see them square off against Penn State on Sunday at 2 at the Schott.
The 2014 Winter Olympics from Sochi begin on Saturday. Ohio State will be well represented in the games as 3 former Buckeye women's hockey players suit up for Finland and Canada, respectively. Buckeye TV will keep you updated throughout the games, so stay tuned over the next couple of weeks. Well, Jordan, as I just said, the Winter Olympics start this weekend. What are you looking forward to most about the games?
I'm probably looking forward to hockey the most, actually. It's always great to see some former Buckeyes out there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this week.
Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Have a good evening.